you need to enable all your independent contributors to be entrepreneurs, because we are in a place right now where one person by themselves can move faster than entire companies because of AI. I built, we'll talk about later, CreatorBuddy, which is my content AI app. I built it completely by myself in about 6 months. I had an idea, I built it, I launched it. Now it's a six-figure app.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the
Let's
show,
go.
Founder Mode, episode 3. You feeling good, Kevin?
I am. It's kind of cool. I think it's starting to feel like a little bit of a groove. Like we got a
Yeah,
little thing going
we're
on
in the
now.
groove.
Like the planning's getting, tighter.
The
We're getting
jazz
smarter. We got a
musicians,
guest
yeah,
today. So, I
yeah.
mean,
There's a guest and like it's in the pocket, right? And if you play jazz, you're like, I'm in the pocket right now. So we're talking AI today, which you and I are both basically geeking out on 24/7, 365. So super exciting. AI is transforming everything, shaking up how anything is made, turning the world of SaaS upside down. We've got this fantastic guest. His name is Alex Finn. He'll be on in just a minute. But first, Kevin and I are going to talk about how we're using AI in our work. So Kevin, lots of AI hype, but how are you using AI day to day?
Yeah, I mean, in some ways it's a little trite, but like I'm using it for everything, and it goes from I use Gmail at most of the companies, and just literally jumping into Gemini and say give me a summary in bullets, and then make it shorter, and literally end up with 5 bullets on any long email that comes to me to quickly to kind of reframe it as a really simple one. So that's like kind of my main use for Gemini, quite frankly, is like the kind of hook into Gmail.
Gemini is great for summarization,
And
less
then,
great for other things.
And then just this mix of like real-time thinking. So it's like, hey, I want to do something with a news topic or something that's current, or quite frankly, researching our guest who's coming up in a minute. I drop it into Grok. X is incredible for this, especially for people that have some kind of a Twitter or X presence. Ask them about what they write about, what they are, who they are. It gives a great summary. But then I still think that O1 Pro is by far the most used thing on my day-to-day.
+1,
where I
totally
can
agree.
drop in, hey, this is what I need, this is what I want you to do, and it grinds on it from 2 to 5 minutes, relatively quickly comes back. And yeah, I mean, to me, it's just like having this kind of highly specialized co-founder. So any question you want to ask, it can sort of have, whether it's legal, finance, HR, employment, empathy-based, anger-based, whatever, and it can sort of tighten that up and just say, hey, if you're, it can context switch like a mother.
Yeah.
It never forgets stuff.
Co-founder, McKinsey analyst, research assistant, whatever you want to call it. It's just an incredible partner.
And I've found it great at like improving things. Like, hey, I've got an old template or an old document that I'm using or something that I have. And I'm like, hey, here's this thing. And here's a bunch of new things I found or some other ideas. Pull all that together and give me like a new version of it. And then, organize it in this way, or give me a template that comes out that would be great to copy and paste into a Google Doc. Like very simple things like that used to like, take a bunch of time to kind of monkey through the formatting. Now you just, it's done. And so I think
in seconds.
And then obviously on the coding side, it's insane. Like we go from idea to sort of prototype very quickly. And so the old days of like, hey, you write a spec and then give it to a dev to go prototype. Now I prototype it, kind of play with the idea, and we can sort of spin up the idea before we spin up the team. And so, but I mean, let's
completely
be honest,
inverted
right?
from how it used to be.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
not just about writing
when
code,
you're in the heyday of your like big teams of devs, how long would it take from idea to prototype, and how long does it take now in that?
I mean, it depends on the complexity, but I think like it would be rare to finish like a prototype of any kind of meaningful app in less than a week. Like even if you really just bare bones, like scrap something together, and now you literally can do that in like easily less than an hour and sometime 15 or 20 minutes. If it's just like a simple 1 or 2 screen kind of setup, you can kick that off and it just generates the whole thing. And
if you're listening and you haven't built an app during this time that Kevin's been talking, then what are you even doing?
Right. You could have. Yeah, you could have. Right. AI is not just about coding. Jason, like how has it changed like your workflow and the future of businesses, from your perspective?
Look, for all of the startups that we're working with, AI is just this like hyper scaling layer. So everything we're doing, we look at it and think about it through the lens of AI, through the kind of workflows that you just described, right? So in the world of growth, it's like processing tons of data, identifying opportunities, looking across all the different channels and experiments, and handing that to these AI tools to synthesize it and generate insight and new ideas and kind of variations at scale and at a velocity that was just basically impossible before. So think about like launching marketing campaigns, product launches and communications, summarizing like a tool, a set of tools, resources and systems. And there are a bunch of AI apps now that will generate copy, assets, variants of your advertising. Like AI can do all the things that, were basically manual labor that you would have to hire a person to do previously. And now it's not to say that that person doesn't have a job anymore. That job just changes into asking the AI to do the thing they were doing before, and they understand it better than anyone else. And now instead of generating a handful of new creative assets a week, you can generate hundreds. Or instead of, analyzing a few campaigns and plucking out a couple of insights and presenting that to a leadership team or a board, you can end up with like, here's everything we did last quarter. Here's the stuff that performed best. And here are 5 new campaign concepts that we generated in partnership with these tools. And here are some example creatives and like growth experiments we could run tomorrow. And like, that's all done, to your point, in minutes or hours, as opposed to weeks or months. Yeah. It's a supercharger to like everything.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
All right. So before we bring in Alex Finn, who's our first guest on Founder Mode and just an awesome kind of vibe coding solo founder, Kevin, how are you doing? Any new AI tools or big wins lately that you want to share with everybody listening?
Yeah, I had one that was really interesting. Earlier this week with one of the companies, we were, I was looking at some, kind of going over their business, and there's a line item for like a pretty expensive, like very niche licensing for music. And it was something I'd never heard of before. And my typical thing would have been taking this acronym and plugging it into Google, like, what is this thing? And, what does it do? And tell me about it. But I tried something different. I just literally took the acronym and put it in to chat and just said, hey, we're paying X for this. How do I negotiate that number down? And I don't even know what now, I mean, other than I knew that it was from this niche thing. And it literally broke down all the strategies and linked me to 2 press releases of people that had actually already done that. And here's the approach they took. And 1 lawsuit where somebody did it and took it too far. And I'm like, and to me, I was like, okay, so that sort of sets up the guardrails that, A, this is possible. I'm not the first one to ask this question. But what was crazy is it literally went from an acronym that I couldn't say or didn't know what it meant to like literally the strategy. And that one returned, if I remember, in like a minute and, 30 some seconds. So like less than 2 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
and then what are the savings that's going to generate for that company?
Millions.
Yeah.
It's millions. Yeah. They spend single digit millions, and yeah, it's going to be more than $1 million in savings. And so like, it's kind of crazy.
Incredible.
With like, $200, I pay for the, ChatGPT Pro or whatever, $200 a month, and a minute and 36 of like probably one of the 10 things I asked it that day. But I think from that one, from a like taking something I knew nothing about, was not even an expert in, I was like literally naive to as a term, all the way to like exactly to go how to execute the strategy in one shot. To me, I thought that was pretty insane. But enough about that. I mean, I've been testing a bunch of productivity tools that we probably talked to on a future episode, but kind of scary how fast stuff is evolving. But yeah, let's get into it and see what Alex has to say.
Awesome. So let's talk about the top lessons from AI. So the biggest thing that you're seeing from adopting AI in the examples you just gave in your workflows, what is the biggest win? What's the thing that, like, if somebody's listening, they take away one thing from this, what should they take away?
I mean, literally just say what you're thinking. So I use this thing Whisper on my Mac, and it's like, no, but you don't understand. I really meant this or that. Like literally just say that. And say that to, ChatGPT or into a box, and you'll be incredibly shocked at how well it understands like sparse context, how well it understands like what you think are semi or unrelated things. It just figures it out, right? And to me, like that is the craziest sort of piece of like, just give it a try and constantly be unafraid. There's zero risk for failure. Like no matter what you tell it, it will like give you an answer. And
doesn't judge you.
Be like, no, I meant this other thing.
Yeah. It's the best sparring partner because it's just going to keep trying to understand you and give you a good answer.
But I think on the flip side, the pitfall of that is like, and I see this too often, like the number of times somebody sends me something where they one-shot it and it's kind of rough and there's like still the stars and the formatting's wonky and it's like very clear that they didn't even
Copy-paste.
review their work. And it says like at the end, it's like, and now use this to go do that. It kind of like exposes some of their prompt. And it's just like, to me, that feels like too low of effort, and you become like a Slop-Bot for yourself if you're sending that stuff out. So I think it's fine for you.
Hashtag Slop-Bot.
Slop-Bot's true. I mean, like you see these on Twitter, like everybody's like, oh, it's AI slops everywhere. I'm like, yeah, but like there's people that I get in my email or I'll see it in a chat or something and somebody sends me something and I'm just like, or a Slack, like sometimes, you know, I'll be in a vendor Slack and they'll send, and I'm like, God, like you didn't even try, man. Like at least like put it into another doc and remove the formatting. Don't like send it to me looking like garbage. And
So
so
the
yeah.
pitfall is don't be the copy paste Slop-Bot. Like actually apply your human brain to the thing you just got back out of the AI.
Yeah. I mean, and maybe that's for you, you know, like when it comes to startup life, like how do you ensure that AI acts like a tool instead of a replacement for that kind of intuition or the
I
human?
mean, you just nailed it, right? Let's not take ourselves out of it. I love to make references to film and television. One of my favorite all-time movies is Office Space. I had a college roommate who would watch it every single night, so I didn't like it for many years after that, but I love it again. And there's this whole bit with the guy who's like, I'm a people person. I take the orders from the customers and I bring them to the engineers. And they go back and forth with him. It turns out, you know, Bob and Bob find out that actually he's not really doing any of this. He has his assistant to talk to the customer, and then she talks to the engineers. And so don't let AI do all of your work for you, right? Your human brain still can do things that AI can't. We have not crossed the chasm. We have not hit AGI, unless I'm missing something here. And Kevin, I can't wait for the episode where we get to talk about that. But in the meantime, the human creativity, the strategy, the insight, your real world experience that is not just based on a large language model is really important. And so figuring out how, as a startup founder, as somebody who's inside of a technology business, who's trying to build something really interesting, AI has to be an ingredient into your system. It is not the system. You are the operator, and you are the one that needs to figure out how to leverage the tools to get the best outcome.
Yeah, I mean, I think that having some kind of a BS filter to pull that back. The other thing that I found super useful is AI gets very wordy. So I use this thing called Hemingway app that sort of super simply just kind of can convert words down to like 7th, 8th grade reading, and you're like amazed like how clean something sounds when it's like in simple words versus this AI sort of like overly flowery thing. It just talks too much. I saw this tweet from Paul Graham and said the same thing. He was like, you know, the biggest sense
I saw that too.
that AIs did it is that it's too long. Like a lot of things don't need a long answer.
Short
You
answer
can
would be
actually
fine.
do it in less.
Yeah, totally agree. And short answers, small teams. I think we've got something pretty exciting next up.
We're thrilled to have Alex with us. He's an entrepreneur tech pioneer that I literally met on Twitter, X. It's crazy. So like I've met a lot of people online, but I think Alex and I crossed paths on Twitter back when we were both in the Web3 game. And it's kind of insane that we met in person and now have crossed paths, you know, IRL, and just live less than an hour from each other in the Bay Area, which is pretty wild. And so shout out to Founder Mode episode 1, you know, where we talked about making connections and getting out and meeting people. And so let's jump into the questions. Alex, what's up?
It is good to be here. Yeah, the power of social media is incredible. I reached out to Kevin because he seemed like the only other normal dude in crypto back in the day. And it turned into this incredible relationship where now I'm on the best podcast in the business. So it's all good.
Let's do
Thanks,
it. Can you
Alex.
walk us through your journey in the tech industry? Like, what inspired you to become an entrepreneur?
Yeah, man. So I've been in tech my whole life. I was a software developer out of school. I have a computer science degree. And then I got into kind of tech consulting. And then I was in leadership on a tech consulting team at a company called MongoDB. And along the way, I've always loved creating and creativity. And so I've had numerous blogs and newsletters and Twitter accounts over the years. The one that finally hit, the one that finally took off was a crypto Twitter I created called NFT God. I bought like a $30,000 cartoon monkey picture and I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever done. I need to
What
do
is that
something with this.
monkey worth now?
Significantly less than $30,000.
Got it.
So I think it's worth like $2,000 now, but
Okay.
I'm holding it like a moron.
Yeah.
Anyway, I started creating content about NFTs and tweeting about it, and it took off, and I decided to go all in on content, and I saw the audience I built as a path to building and launching products. So it kind of took its way from there.
And you have a product that we're going to talk about later. So that first product is now launched. And for those who are not following you, we'll get into what you've done already with that product. But When you think about like what is driving innovation in tech right now, Alex, how do businesses stay ahead of the curve? How can people really like ride the wave that is what's happening in tech right now?
You need to enable, if you're a company, you need to enable all your independent contributors to be entrepreneurs, because we are in a place right now where one person by themselves can move faster than entire companies because of AI. I built, we'll talk about later, CreatorBuddy, which is my content AI app. I built it completely by myself in about 6 months. I had an idea, I built it, I launched it. Now it's a 6-figure app. And my strategy I'm doing right now is as other companies, big companies launch AI features, I'm just building it and putting it into CreatorBuddy. And so we are in a place now with AI where individual people can go out, build full-scale enterprise products by themselves in short time periods. And really the only thing slowing anyone down is bureaucracy. So if I'm a large company and I'm trying not to be defeated by small companies, I'm allowing my individual contributors to go out, come up with cool things, build it on their own, and launch it as a part of the company. Because just as an example, I mean, you think about the AI companies out there, OpenAI, XAI, Google. The biggest is Google. The smallest is XAI, which has the best product right now. Grok has passed all of them. So size really doesn't matter anymore.
It's awesome. I think one of the things you talk about big companies and your sort of transition from like working in one now to yourself. As you think back to like being in those big companies, like what are sort of like the leadership qualities or the way that you would lead a team or be part of that if you were to go back today? And how are you applying that in your solo venture?
I think the strongest quality you can have, not only as an entrepreneur, not only as someone in leadership, but just overall right now in the age we live in, is the skill set of being able to form an opinion. I honestly believe the strongest skill you can have right now is the ability to form and communicate opinions. I think the only reason I blew up on social media is because I was in the crypto space and I was able to form very strong opinions and express them. People are very attracted to other people who can form and express strong opinions. If you're in leadership at a company, be able to go to your team, look at the product and say, this is my very strong opinion on it. People look at those types of people as leaders. They want to follow those people. They want to follow them into battle. And listen, is your opinion always going to be correct? No, but you need to be able to look at evidence, be able to change your mind based on that evidence. So I really think that the thing that separates the people succeeding in content, social media, business is the ones that can quickly and on the fly form opinions, form taste, and express that, because that's really what attracts people to other people.
I like that. And I like the idea of being opinionated. I've always heard the phrase, strong opinions loosely held, and the idea of being, it's okay to be wrong, and like new facts, new information can help me change my opinion, but being able to make quick decisions, I think you're right, is a huge element of strong leadership. So when you think about the tech that has enabled you to do what you're doing right now, Alex, what are the emerging technologies that you're really excited about that you think are going to just have massive impact on society and life in general? And you touched on a few of them, but I want to hear the Alex take on this. Feel free to share your strong opinion.
Well, I think the most exciting technology of my lifetime is AI coding. So Cursor and Windsurf. I'm using Windsurf right now, but I think that AI programming has totally democratized success. Anyone can come up with an idea and then execute on that idea on the fly. Right before, there was this massive moat for builders where you need to be able to program, you need to be able to code. And that is a very hard skill set that very few people have. And only the very select few, the nerds, the Mark Zuckerbergs who are in their dorm coding all day, were the ones able to succeed. And now we live in a time where literally everyone, no matter what your skill set is, no matter how little technical experience you have, can build any product you want. And what that does is it completely takes the friction away from idea to product, right? And so that's incredible for multiple reasons. One, now anyone can succeed, right? I didn't need, the overhead of CreatorBuddy is very little. I'm running on like 95% margins. I could have done this if I was broke living in a box, right?
Incredible.
But most people, like anyone now, can take their ideas and execute. So success is completely democratized, and it's so exciting for society as well, because now all those ideas that were lost in time just because the people didn't have the resources, the connections to execute on them, they can now go out and do that. And that benefits society as a whole. Now anyone can build solutions to challenges.
Tell us about the app you built. I mean, as a solo founder, right? Kind of vibe coding, as they say, your way into this like social media creation tool. Like, tell us more about it. Like, what does it do and sort of how did you build it?
Yeah, so I built CreatorBuddy over the last 6 months, launched it about a month ago. I basically took my content creation system that I used over the last 3 years while I was working a 9 to 5, right? I was trying to come up with content as I, had this very strenuous job. I took that system that allowed me to come up with endless content ideas, push out tons of content and grow to hundreds of thousands of followers. I took that system and I turned it into software. Right. And so first thing I was thinking about when I did this, I just want to build an app for myself that makes my life a lot easier. And as I started building it, I'm like, okay, other people could use this and this would bring tons of value to them. And so that's when I released it to the rest of my audience. And so what CreatorBuddy is a content system that basically allows you to come up with endless ideas with AI, right? It understands who you are, what you're interested in, and generate you ideas. It's able to review your old ideas. So it's integrated into X. Right now, it's primarily an X tool. And it actually has your entire context of every piece of content you put out on X. And an AI is able to go back and figure out what works for you and what doesn't, and generate you templates based on what's worked for you. So it basically allows you to come up with endless ideas for content on X, review what's worked, and come up with way better ideas so you get a lot more growth. It's basically an AI content engine that really no other company is doing right now.
And how much of the code do you think you've typed out manually versus like actually generated from AI?
0.01% I wrote manually. That was me probably pasting in the API keys was my manual code. Pasting in the API keys. Everything else was built by AI.
Incredible.
And both Kevin and I are CreatorBuddy customers and subscribers.
Early customer. I signed up on day one when he announced it.
I signed up the third day after meeting Alex in person. I was sold.
It took a few days of selling, but we
you did some good selling though. It was good. Look,
that's how me and Kevin reconnected. Was I reached out to him a few years ago just because he was a normal dude, and then a few years later, like, hey, I bought CreatorBuddy. I'm like, hey, I like you, and then we met up.
Let's do it.
You only get to meet Alex if you buy his software. So just understand those are the steps, folks.
What have you done for me lately?
Exactly. Look, I think, Alex, what you're doing is really, really inspiring. And what you've also chosen to do in terms of how you're sharing your story, I mean, it makes sense as somebody who built his audience and his brand on Twitter, now X. You're building in public, right? And that's awesome. Let's get the quick update on where you are today and where you're headed.
Yeah, so at the moment, we're at about 550 paid subscribers to CreatorBuddy. I've done basically 0 paid advertising. It's all through sharing my journey. We're at about $300,000 of ARR, one person company, 90% or so margins. Really, my only expense is the X API, which Elon's now charging me $5,000 a month for, but that's fine. Hey, Elon, you've helped me build a business.
Do you have to personally pay him the $5K? Like, how does that work?
I write him a check. I send it directly to
you have his home address.
One of his baby mamas. Yeah.
Whoa. Okay. Cool.
Here, take it. It's all yours.
It sounds like you're on the way to $1 million in ARR. You said you're about a month in. You're already at 300,000. What's next? Like, what's the path to get to the $1 million plus and then beyond?
Well, now we start looking for interesting marketing ideas, right? So I have a good marketing engine going just through kind of my content I put on X, right? Telling my story, showing others how to build apps themselves, showing others how to create content. That's getting me about 10 new customers a day. But now we can start throwing some gasoline on the fire. And so in the next week or so, I'll be starting some interesting paid advertising campaigns on X. First, I am turning my business account into a official organization account on X, which puts like your logo next to your name everywhere you go. I'm going to try to do like kind of a guerrilla campaign where I'm going to go to other creators kind of in my niche, get them to put the logo next to their name. I think it costs like $50 extra a month, put logo on other people's names. So all they have to do is get me one customer a month for it to pay for itself, which I think is very doable. So little things like that. We're going to start experimenting with just the straight up paid marketing on X. I'm going to be experimenting with paid spaces. I think spaces are kind of a new type of media that's going to be blowing up in the future. There's basically 0 marketing dollars going into spaces right now. I think it's an interesting play to experiment with. Throw some dollars to big spaces hosts, see how it goes. Because obviously my target, I'm starting with a very niche market. Right? I'm starting with just X with which comparatively to YouTube and TikTok and Facebook is really small, right? It's much smaller than the other platforms. And so my tool is just for X right now. I want to have the best tool on X, the best content generation tool on X. I want everyone on X to know my tool is the best. And so I'm going to a lot of interesting different ways to get the word out about CreatorBuddy on X before I expand to other platforms.
Awesome. Tell us where they can find you online.
You can find me on X, AlexFinX. You can find me on YouTube. That's kind of the next stage for me, the next platform I'm going after, at AlexFinOfficial. Some really good educational AI content there. You can find my newsletter, which has 30,000 subscribers, at 1percentbetter.io. The number one, the word percent, the word better.io. That's my kind of AI tech entrepreneurship newsletter. And then obviously my app, CreatorBuddy, is CreatorBuddy.
And you, I think, brought a code with you today, right? So for people to kind of get into CreatorBuddy at a discount?
Yes, code founder. I think you put in all caps. I typed that all caps. So put in all caps gets you 20% off, which is $10 off every month for your first 6 months.
Dude, thank you so much. We're going to love that. And then we'll put all the links that you named out in the description, so that'll be easy to find. But Alex, thanks for having us and for spending the time with us today.
It's good to be on the #1 podcast in entrepreneurship. Happy to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much, Alex. We'll catch you on the other side. Man, that was awesome. What a story. I mean, vibe coding, solo founder, SaaS killing, CreatorBuddy. Like, I just want to call Alex the CreatorBuddy, right? Like, he's the man.
Totally.
Super fun. So it just, for me, what this brings up is like, Kevin, you're seeing this on a bunch of fronts too. AI, it's changing the way we build and iterate on SaaS products, right? Like, how are you seeing things play out?
Yeah, I'll actually go as far to say I think like SaaS, and definitely the way it was, is dead. And that I think that the SaaS that we see in the future is going to look very different. And in particular, I think the piece where you can create a simple workflow of like, hey, we need an app that does X or takes Y input and does Z with it. Like, that stuff is so easy to build, as Alex talked about. Like, one person can go and put together a lot of really interesting workflows without a lot of effort. So I think SaaS is going to be threatened by that deeply. I think the piece where humans still sort of need to like be involved is thinking about that sort of, human layer of like, where is it actually touching the customer? What are the sort of integrations, or what is that sort of business that puts it all together to turn it into something valuable? Like, a lot of people could say, hey, I want to go write tweets with AI like Alex did. But it's not that, right? It's like, how do you come up with ideas? How do you like ensure that those ideas match what you've said before? So there's a lot of training and context. How do you, go connect and negotiate with, Elon to get the X API to make sure that you're getting the right level of data, that you have access to that? Like, those kind of things I don't think AI is going to get to in the short term. And so in the medium term, long term, maybe we'll see some of that erode away. But I do think that in the short term, like, the piece that the humans are constantly going to be tied into is this integration piece. But SaaS as like a business of like, hey, I'm going to go start a business and build a website that, software as a service, it's really easy and everybody buys the same thing. I don't
And you
think
pay
that's
for
gonna look-
seats.
Yeah. You're not going to be buying seats. If anything, if you do, every seat's going to be custom, and there's going to be different modules depending on how you sit in your chair, right? Some people are going to have the pad, the wide, the arms, the change. I think every seat will look very customized, if we want to use that analogy.
Yeah.
Where I think today the
It's
SaaS
like a one size fits all. Yeah.
shot.
Here's your 40 seats for your team.
Totally dead. So I think that model is dead and it's dying. And I think those companies and the ones that we've talked to that are fighting like mad to AI enable their data moat might survive. I think the ones that are just saying, hey, I don't know, we're going to go put some AI wrapper features or do some things on the side, I don't think they're going to make it, just because they don't have any unique advantage. And some AI is going to come along and completely delete them from the tool chain or the usefulness in a business. They're just not going to, that app's not going to be needed. And I think we're going to see more of that in the next year or two than anything else.
All right, Kevin, another great one in the books. If you had to sum it up, what would you say today's episode covered?
I think the big thing, AI is a supercharger on so many different aspects. I mean, the human touch still matters. You've got to kind of have your way of finessing the output. You can't trust it end to end, but there is this sense that a solo founder and rapid prototypes can really move you at this crazy next level. And I mean, the obvious thing here is the future of SaaS is changing. No matter what you want to believe has happened, there's a change coming. So next time we're going to explore founder anxiety, and being a bit neurodivergent can be a superpower instead of an impediment to your success. And so we're going to have another guest, Slop-Bot, join us and talk through some of the stuff he's worked on and get into his sort of views on the topic and go from there.
I can't wait. It's going to be a lot of fun. Excited to have him on. If you liked this episode, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, leave a review. We're on Apple, Spotify, YouTube. We want you to tell us if this is awesome, if it sucks, if you hate it, if you love it. All engagement is good engagement as far as we're concerned. Just tell us what you think. And if you know a great founder that should be on the show, tag them in the comment and say, hey, you should be on founder mode. We'd love to hear your thoughts. So please give us your feedback. Join the Founder Mode newsletter, and just tell us how we're doing. We're excited to share this journey with you and tell the stories we're telling. So we'll see you on the next one.
Awesome. Big thanks to Alex Bin for joining us, and thank you for listening. I mean, remember, AI can do the grunt work, but human insight drives the innovation.
Thanks, everybody.